to be talking about Louisiana. Now, I was actually born in Indiana, and I lived there till I was 8 months old, but after that, I moved to Louisiana and lived there for 8 years, before moving here to California. Now, when most people think about Louisiana, they might think of Mardi Gras, good food, or jazz music. They also might think of the French Quarter, swamps, Hurricane Katrina, or maybe even currently Duck Dynasty. So today I'm going to be sharing about all of this and more. Louisiana is filled with a very rich history, and when you first go there, you'll probably want to see the French Quarter. The French Quarter is located in New Orleans, which is right by where I used to live, so I've been there a few times. Another name for the French Quarter is Vieux Carré, which means Old Square in French. The French Quarter was actually built under Spanish rule, so if you go there, you might notice a Spanish theme to most of the buildings. It is built along the Mississippi River, goes down Canal Street, down Esplanade Avenue, and finally ends at North Rampart Street. It is built on a total of 78 square blocks. Compared to other places, the French Quarter was affected lightly by Hurricane Katrina. It was also affected by floods over the years, but it still stays standing today. I actually did live in Louisiana when Hurricane Katrina struck. This terrible hurricane started on August 23, 2005, and ended on August 30th. When we heard it was coming, we immediately drove to my grandparents' house until we heard that it was over. We drove back down to my house, anxious to see if the hurricane had done any damage. Thankfully, the hurricane had only chipped off one of the corners of our house, unlike our neighbor's house who had a tree laying right through the middle of it. Many people lost everything to this hurricane. Now, many people have heard of Mardi Gras, but they don't know even why it's celebrated or the meaning or how it was started. Now, Mardi Gras was originally celebrated by Catholic people, and they would throw a party before Lent. Lent is a tradition that Catholic people do 40 days before Easter, in which they give up a luxury to show penitence. It is a festival filled with masquerade balls, parades, and king cake parties. The last 5 days of this festival are the most elaborate. Many people celebrate it today, and not just Catholics. Thousands of people will line the street and watch as the floats drive by. 20 to 100 riders throw plastic beads or little trinkets or stuffed animals off the floats. Some are even pulled by horses. When I was little, I used to sit on my dad's shoulder so I could get up higher and catch things that they threw off. Some people even bring ladders. Every year we would come home with a duffel bag full of things that we caught from the parade. I looked forward to this festive event because it was so much fun to go to. One thing that I miss most about Louisiana is the food. The food found here is much more richer than most of the food in the country. A lot of people in California have not heard of the food, and if they do hear of it, they might think it's disgusting. Almost everyone in Louisiana enjoys going to crawfish boils held by their friends. A crawfish is basically like a small lobster, and it takes a lot of them to fill up on. Beignets are another one of my favorite foods. Beignets are basically the same concept of a donut, but it tastes totally different. It is a French dessert, which is fried dough covered in powdered sugar and served hot. That is the food that I miss the most. Although I miss the food, I do not miss the weather. Unlike California, the weather in Louisiana is very hot, humid, and very miserable, especially in the summer. Now, the temperature is mostly in the 90s, which is not that bad, but when you add humidity, it gets so much worse. When I moved here, I thought that it was always so cold because the weather is so different. Now, when I tell my friends that I lived in Louisiana, for some reason, they all think that I lived near a swamp and saw alligators in my backyard all the time. Although there are a lot of swamps, most people don't actually live near one. And I only saw a few alligators the whole time I lived here. The only alligators I saw were at my grandparents' house, but they are very rare in New Orleans. So now that you know a little bit more about Louisiana, maybe one day you can visit there and experience all the things that you just heard about. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to have our topics master Kendall come up and tell us what our 3 tablecloths are.
So the 3 table topics are: if you could be any animal or insect, what would you be and why?